Today, we're going to talk about receiving gifts from your ex. Now, this can come in two different forms. Sometimes this comes as a gift to you from the child or the children, right? It's like a birthday gift for you or a Mother's Day or Father's Day gift for you that is being given to you by the child, right? But we know that our ex went and picked it out and, bought it and put it together and the whole thing, whatever. Or sometimes the ex's new mate. I've seen that happen too. And sometimes it's actually gifts for the children at your home. And, I had a discussion with somebody about this today, and it just kind of dawned on me, you know what? I don't think I've ever actually talked about this on the channel. So we're going to dive into it today. But before we do, let me just remind you, if you like the content and find it helpful, don't forget to hit like on this video and also subscribe to the channel so that you get notified as new videos are released. So what do you do? Because when I was talking to my client today about it, it was kind of like, well, do I have to keep this stuff? I want to just trash it, throw it away. I don't want anything from this person. I don't want the energy of anything attached to this person. Blah, get it all out of my house, right? And I've had people that say, oh, my friend, my sister, my mom, my whoever told me I should just get rid of all that. And, if it's just two adults and somebody was giving you a gift you didn't want and you were going to get rid of it, I would say more power to you, whatever you want to do. But when there's children involved, I think we have to give this a little bit more thought because number one, we have to think about how's the court going to view this, first of all, right? And second of all, what is the child witnessing in all this? Like, what's their interpretation of it? How could that possibly upset the child or why would it upset the child? Maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. Sometimes it depends on the kid. But here's kind of my take on this, okay? So what I always tell people is, look, if you're getting something from the child to you, even if you know your ex bought it or your ex's new mate or whatever the deal is, really, you need to keep that. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have it on display on your mantle in your house or, wear it if it's a piece of clothing or jewelry or whatever. But I think that it's important that you do keep it and have it. A lot of times the children are just too young to understand what's going on. And we don't want them to feel rejected in the process of this. So if you're rejecting a gift that they're giving you, even if it came from the other parent and was prompted by the other parent, it is still going to make that child on some level feel some rejection of that. And look, for most kids, even rejection of the other parent can feel a little personal to them because they're half the other parent, right? We have two parents. We are a part of them. And honestly, biologically or not, like if you're being raised by two parents, then it's that whole nature versus nurture, right? You're going to develop certain habits, certain characteristics, different things of each of those parents. So whether your child is bio or not is not my point. My point is that your child is pieces of both parents. And so any rejection of that other parent for most children is interpreted as a rejection of them. Now, they can't verbalize that a lot of times. They're not old enough. They don't have the cognitive maturity to be able to express that. But that is what happens most of the time on some level. So I always tell people keep the gifts at least until your children are, older, till they're grown or whatever. And then you can explain and you can toss it out or you can whatever. But honestly, even if your ex drug that child to the store kicking and screaming and said, we're going to pick out a gift for your parent, and they took the child to the store, the child still went through the process of gathering that, right? Or maybe they sat down online and they looked up different options or whatever. Even if the child was forced to do that, they still had some part in it. And so we don't want to be rejecting whatever part in it they had. All right. So that's real important. I also think that when it comes to kind of the court perspective on this, if you're rejecting that gift, then you sort of are not supporting the other person's parenting, right? Like the other person is trying to do something cooperative, right? Whether that's how they mean it or not, that's what the appearance of it is, right? And so if we're rejecting that, then we're sort of rejecting that cooperation. And I had one client say, well, okay, but they shouldn't even be sending me gifts. Like it's inappropriate for a gift to even come from them or whatever. And I get that, but then you rejecting that gift isn't supporting their parenting either, particularly if it's a gift for the child. And then you're both wrong, and then nobody wins, right? And so what you want to do is handle things correctly so that their poor handling of things is kind of more exposed, right? If we're both behaving badly, all the court notices is we're both behaving badly. But if you can kind of always keep your halo on, ding, as my late husband used to call it, then it exposes their, lack of cooperation or their kind of negative aspects of their behavior. And then that doesn't come through on your side. And that's really what we're trying to do in everything when we're talking about the court aspect of things. You're always trying to be wearing your halo and letting the other side's true colors shine through. Now, if we're talking about a gift for the child, I think in some ways that's even more problematic, right? Like you can get a gift that comes for you. You don't like it, whatever. You're not going to toss it. You're going to put it up on a shelf somewhere so you can show the kid you still have it if you're asked about it and move on with your life. I mean, if you have the wherewithal to do it, you might even like wear it once in a while around the kid or whatever, if you're able to pull that off. If you're not, just leave it on the shelf. It's okay. It can stay there. Okay. But when we're talking about gifts to the children, I think this becomes even more kind of sensitive for the court. One, if the children have a birthday or it's Christmas or something like that, maybe, right? Although we would expect the other parent to have their own parenting time for those types of holidays and situations. But sometimes it's that they're just randomly sending a gift. And I have had people do this. And you might ask, well, why? That seems ridiculous. It does seem ridiculous, doesn't it? But people do this. And they do it a lot of times as a way to sort of insert themselves into your world. And I think this is something that narcissists in particular do. I think kids do go through phases where, they're curious about mail, or they start to understand how mail works and they're kind of excited about it or whatever. But a lot of times this is something that's used. But again, we have to be careful, because if the child gets a gift from the other parent, let's say in your world, let's just say that parent decided to send a little trinket through the mail or whatever, just so the kid can receive something, right? Like my grandchildren do that with each other. They send little, scribbled on papers to each other in the mail. The moms facilitate that because they all enjoy getting each other's mail. So they do that back and forth. When you have that with a co-parent, and they do that, it can almost feel like, well, they're trying to get your child's attention even when they're not there, right? And then the child gets all excited and they've got this thing. And sometimes they want to call the other parent or whatever because they're excited because they received the gift or the trinket or whatever in the mail. And then you're like, here we go. And there are some ways to deal with that. I don't think you always have to necessarily let the child call, especially if you are dealing with a narcissistic situation where we're trying to have boundaries and all those kinds of things. But you can deal with it in other ways. You could use that opportunity to teach the child to write a thank you note, right? That's sort of an old-fashioned piece of etiquette that's really gone by the wayside in our recent technological advancement society. So you could have the child sit down and write a thank you note. And maybe it's their chance to practice their handwriting or whatever. And it can be very simple and short. And then they could mail that back to the other parent. My experience is if you have a young child and they're getting a gift, well, that gift's probably going to last all of about 30 seconds. That's about how it goes with my grandkids. And then they're on to the next shiny thing, right? So if you don't give it too much power, they probably won't either. And the thing with a narcissist in particular, if they're the ones doing it, if you are dealing with somebody with these characteristics on the other side, what happens is they know it bugs you, you get more of it. If you say, well, you shouldn't have done that. That was inappropriate, whatever. It's not even their birthday. It's not this or that. Then they're probably just likely to they're probably likely to send even more gifts, right? And so I say to clients, like, maybe you should say, oh yeah, we had the greatest time with that little toy you sent. We all sat down and we played with it for over an hour. We just had the best time. And if you can actually say that with an almost straight face and make it come off, guess what? You probably won't get any more gifts in the mail because they don't want to do anything that they think that you're enjoying. But when that comes into your world, it's like you do want to support their parenting. So if they're sending something to the child and you reject it, then the court could say, well, okay, it's not appropriate for them to be sending a gift, but then you're rejecting it. So you're not supporting their parenting. So you're both big red X on both of you, right? Whereas if you just accept it, give it to the child, it is what it is, whatever, I'm going to let it play out. Then what happens is the court will go, that's kind of odd. Why would you send the child a gift, a child that you see every few days? You got a 223 and you're sending a gift in the mail. Like, why? That's kind of weird, right? The court is probably going to view that as kind of odd, or maybe see that they are trying to insert themselves into your world, but not if you then have this, emotional reaction where you reject the gift, or you talk to the child about it, or say the other parent shouldn't have done that. That was inappropriate. We're not going to play with this gift. You can, take it back to the other parents with you, or you're so dismissive of it, then that becomes a problem in itself. So again, you have to balance these things, right? And the less that you act like it bothers you, the better off that you'll be, and the less of it that you'll get. But you don't want the children to know that it bothers you. You want to just be able to say, oh yeah, that was really cool that your mom or your dad sent you this little thing in the mail. Maybe we should write them a thank you letter. Let's sit down and do that. And then, that again gives you that teaching moment, and to be able to send that back. And the child never knew that upset you. And you don't want the child to know, because they can't understand the dynamics of that. They don't know why it would upset you. And if you're upset with the other parent, again, a lot of times that starts getting internalized for a child, even very, very young, even under 5. Oh, one parent rejects the other parent. Maybe that parent rejects the other parent's piece of me that exists. Okay. So we want to be real careful and think about it from our children's perspective, because so many times children get, trauma through this process because we don't take the time to just step back and think things through. We only think about it from an emotional perspective. We're only thinking about it from our own personal perspective. And we're not really stepping back and considering the full picture of what's happening. And that's very, very important. And I think that's a lot of what the coaching services can help you do, is just have that objective viewpoint of somebody that can sort of like pull you back and say, okay, before we react to this, let's think it through, and let's think through what all the potential good and bad consequences of this may be, and how can we use it to our advantage. If you'd like help in doing that, you can go to divorceuniversityonline.com/VIP-coaching. There's information on that page on my group programs for moms and for dads, and also information on my VIP one-on-one premium coaching services if you feel like you need just kind of that higher level of help and you have a more complex situation going on. All right. Thanks for joining me. I hope it was helpful. I will see you guys next time.
We'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon. Turn